and answer the questions as they come through. And then if not, then we can just go ahead and address them at the end of the training as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys and kind of walk through the actual account. Just give me one moment. I'm not super familiar with Microsoft Teams. We usually use Zoom. But
thanks for using this. Appreciate it.
No worries, no worries.
You just hit share screen at the top upper right-hand corner is where it usually is.
This is how I feel whenever our Indeed guy uses Zoom and I'm trying to share my screen. I'm like, we use Teams. I'm like, where is it on this?
It's nice to be on the other end of that.
Yes.
All right. So can you guys see the screen okay?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
So, of course, when navigating the Indeed account, you have the Indeed resume search landing page. You could go ahead and access that left-hand side or just type in resumes.indeed.com, and it's going to bring you directly to this page right here. Of course, if you guys are used to utilizing the Indeed resume search tool, then you know that the Indeed resume search tool is Boolean search capable. So if you are used to using Boolean search strings, I highly recommend utilizing that, especially in those really like niche roles, or if you have like typically with like healthcare roles or in the healthcare occupational category that you need certain medical licenses or certain certifications. It's really good for that, just based off of I can start to input that into the Boolean search tree to find those resumes that have those specific certifications, certain licenses there.
That's good.
So
Do you have an example of one that you can just slap up there real quick to show us what a Boolean search string, kind of more convoluted, complex search looks like?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, do you guys have a job title that I could use for the training?
Sure. Let's do mental health consultant. That's a job that we're doing right now for a client.
And then the requirements are.
Yeah, right.
So there we go. And then in a specific area?
It's in Jacksonville, Florida.
There we go. All right, we'll go ahead and search that. Let's go ahead and see with a skill set or a certifications or license.
They want either psychiatry license or a clinical psychologist license.
Okay, clinical psychologist license. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and put in title, because probably help if I spell it correctly, because we definitely want to make sure that we find that specific title there and go ahead and include that. I'm going to use that just for this sake, just to kind of explain kind of what that, if you're not super familiar with Boolean search, basically what we're looking for is the title of the last position that they actually worked at. So just to give you an example of just a Boolean search string, this would be the example of a Boolean search string that we're looking for when we search title. Now, we could also search any title as well, and that's any work experience that the candidates had with mental health consultant in their titles. So you see kind of the varying results that we get with just putting the title of the last position that they've actually worked with any title or any work experience that they've actually worked, and include that in their resume as well. One thing I did actually want to call out here too is that with the advanced search, because this is where that license and certification could come in a little bit more handy. You have the option to go ahead and put in specific keywords that you would actually like to find in those resumes on top of the title of any last job. So I can go ahead and put in mental health consultant. We'll take out that. We'll take out this here. And then you said clinical.
Either psychologist or psychiatrist, either one.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have, because I'm
psych.
really
You
bad.
can just put psych in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Psych,
I mean, we'll see when that comes up.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and put in mental health consultant, and then we'll put in psych to include all of these words. You can even make it to where it has the exact phrase. So if you wanted to include that and nothing else, for example, you can put in psych. Let's just say, for example, you had a healthcare facility, or you just had another practice that you don't want to poach any candidates off, or you don't want to pull any candidates from this specific practice as well. You can go ahead and include that business or that job title in that specific none of these words, and it's going to exclude those candidates from the search results that we get when we go ahead and we perform this search. So I've noticed, like, usually in the healthcare, usually in certain fields, they don't want to poach, or they have a contract where they can't poach. So that's a good way to kind of work around that to make sure that we don't include certain candidates so we don't have to basically less work for us as well. But of course, you can go ahead and put that work experience however you want to see fit. Education, of course, is pretty straightforward. Location, pretty straightforward. And then the filters, which I'm going to go over here in a sec. But now you see how it has that psych and then title mental health consultant. That's an example of a Boolean search string. Of course, depending on what you kind of put in that Boolean search string, depending on how and what information you want to include, it's going to give you varying results. So let's go back.
Does Indeed actually rewrite it in the Boolean search string formula, or is it intuitive in such a way? So it rewrote that, didn't it?
Uh-huh.
Do you see that, guys? This is kind of a formula place to build out what you need. Then it rewrites it in a Boolean search string format. So this is a help, right, to write Boolean search?
Yes, you got it.
So, but if you put, like, here's another example, instead of doing psychology. So they want experience within, it's for a Job Corps facility, and they want experience working with disadvantaged youth. So if instead of putting an exact phrase, could you put it in, I just remember doing this in LinkedIn. I don't mean to say that, but I just remember when we used to do this, even like in Career Builder and Monster back in the day. I remember first doing this, and I remember that if you had the exact phrase, and I mean, they would say like disadvantage boys or something, it would not catch it, even though the word disadvantage was in there. So for us anyway, I remember when we used to do this, we never used exact phrases because it would rule people out versus if we would just do other words. Is that still true of this?
It can be, because it's so subjective to what the candidates actually put on the resume. Where if they don't have that exact phrase and we're looking for that exact phrase, it's definitely going to exclude those candidates that may or may not still fit what we need as far as experience goes.
Okay. So disadvantaged youth, that's experience that you have to have. So, okay. So that's where you would put it, at least one of these words. Okay.
Yeah, I'd put it right here. Because it's still going to try to find that specific keywords. So we went ahead and we put that disadvantage or youth. So you see how it switched it up and it's still looking for those specific words.
Right.
Let's go back here to advanced search. Let's go to all of the words.
So I think that's important to mention there. To get to this Boolean helper, this tutorial, this thing to write the string, you got to go to advanced search, and then it translates it all when you hit search. Okay, good.
I highly recommend utilizing that advanced search or the Boolean search strings if you're familiar with it. But yeah, it's going to try to find, as best as possible, to find those specific key terms and keywords there as well. Which, I mean, if they don't include that in their resume, then it's going to be tough to kind of find those specific key terms and keywords as well.
Sure.
So we'll do, just for the sake of the training, we'll just keep it on the title, mental health consultant. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's take away those. There we go. And then we'll find that. And then, of course, kind of looking through the resumes, especially if you need certain things, you can kind of look through the experience. You can even go through like the job titles here on the left-hand side and see, okay, this person is a mental health counselor, which I've seen some other clients utilize, this, especially with the job titles. Like they know, okay, with a mental health counselor, you need XYZ certifications in order to basically be that job title. So then they can go through and then filter, okay, I have, 4 or 5 mental health counselors. So I know that in order to be considered a mental health counselor, you need this certification in order to do so. So then they can still reach out to these candidates that may or may not have the experience that they need based off of what their job title is, because the person that's actually doing the searching knows the requirements of that specific job title. So I've had users or clients utilize that when they're actually searching for specific candidates as well. But
very helpful.
Yes, but you can use job titles. Company, maybe that the Wise company or something like that only pulls in candidates that have to have certain certifications. Maybe it's a liability, maybe it's an insurance thing, but that they have to have certain certifications in order to be considered to work for a certain company. So the filters on the side can definitely help and assist when we're looking for these specific candidates as well, because it can start to fine tune that search and find those specific candidates, even if necessarily when we input that in that Boolean search string or they use the advanced search, we don't find exactly what we're looking for. One other thing that I like to point out as well, a couple of the filters that I like to point out, especially if we're urgently hiring or we really need to fill a role fast, is the when the resume was last updated. And then there's also another filter called candidate last active. So if you have the professional subscription, you will see the candidate last active filter. And basically those two filters correlate to when the actual candidates are actively engaged, either on the Indeed platform looking for a job, which refers to the candidate last active, or it refers to the when the resume was last updated. Now, when the resume was last updated could mean, hey, I acquired a new skill set, and I'm going to go ahead and update my resume to reflect that. Maybe I graduated from college or got a certain certification or degree. I went ahead and updated my resume with that. Or maybe my tenure at another company has ended, and I updated my resume to reflect that as well. So, but I like to highlight that because it just shows who's actively engaged with making themselves as much as a viable option for the job market as possible. So that's why I like highlighting that. And it also shows that, okay, this person, they've recently updated, their resume as of July 6th. So it could be a good candidate to reach out to because they might be in the market for a new company to work for. Now, you also have the exclude contacted candidates filter, which refers to any candidate that you may or may not have contacted within the last 30 days. Of course, when we're using the Indeed platform and using the resume search tool, we can only contact candidates once every 30 days unless you get a positive response. So that's something to kind of keep in the back of the head when we're reaching out to these candidates. And that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure when we're using that search, it's really fine-tuned. Because if we have not as much as a list of candidates and we can only reach out to them once every 30 days, we want to make sure that when we reach out to them, it's an effective process and we get them on that first communication. So another additional contact method that I wanted to highlight is phone calls or text. I usually like pointing this out because it's for the professional subscription. So if you are a little bit more adverse to contacting candidates via phone, any candidate that is available to be contacted via phone, they should populate with this specific filter. And it should say accepts calls, accepts SMS right there at the bottom there. I like it because it's just another way to contact the individual. It's a little bit harder to ignore a phone call. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't ignore a phone call, but email is a little bit easier to ignore versus a phone call or text. So typically if they have a phone call as additional contact method, they typically have text as being an additional contact method as well, which if you text or decide to text a candidate, it's going to be automated and it's going to say something along the lines of, hello, Elizabeth, please confirm your interest with the job link. And then it's going to have the job link where the candidate can go ahead and confirm their interest. And then there's going to be a message that says, of course, standard messaging rates may apply. Please hit stop in order to stop the messaging. But of course, if the candidate's anything like me, I have my phone literally right next to me. So again, it's a little bit easier to contact them via phone or via text as well. Which I've had on numerous trainings and a lot of users that use the additional contact methods with the professional subscription. They said they started to see success when contacting candidates via phone or via text as well. So it could be something to think about as well.
Can I just interrupt you for a quick second and ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So when they confirm, like when you send them the message and they get the message, please confirm your interest with a job link, and they click on that job link, is that what generates the numbers and the analytics when they look at how many people were contacted?
Yeah, so that pretty much that confirm my interest is where they pull those numbers from. That's going to basically say that this person contacted me was effectively contacted me enough to pique my interest to go ahead and confirm my interest as well. But they also have the option to say, I think, or not confirm interest or confirm not interested as well. So once they tap that button, then of course the Indeed machine in the background, of course, has a way to track whether or not they confirm they're interested or can they confirm that they're not interested.
Okay.
Is there a limitation to the number of people that you can respond to in one fell swoop, 20, 50, or 100, and then solicit them to respond back via text and or provide a templated way of communicating with them so that they can respond easily with the Calendly link or something like that?
Great question. I want to make sure that, because I think, do you mean like bulk message?
Right.
Okay, perfect. So with the professional subscription, you have the ability to bulk message candidates. So if you have, 10, 20 candidates that you would like to reach out to, you have that option to do so. Of course, this is a standard subscription that the training account that I'm in right now. So with the standard, I don't have the ability to do so. But with the professional subscription, you should see a box here right next to the name that you can click on, and then you can go ahead and then it says send email right at the top. And then that means that you can go ahead and send a bulk message to multiple candidates.
Right. And then there are templated letters that you can edit, tweak, and change. And I thought at one time that there was some software built into the Indeed account that allowed you to put your calendar link in there as well, so that they can even schedule time.
Yes, and that's true. You do have the ability to do that. Let's see if I can get to it. Let's see here if it's going to allow me to do so. So I'll just let you know about it because it sounds like you're familiar with it. So when you go to email a candidate, I don't know why it's not popping up here right now, but when you go to email a candidate and you kind of scroll down past the messaging piece, there should be an option that says sync your calendar. And then what happens is you click on that button and then you go ahead and you connect your calendar to Indeed to sync. So anytime that you update your calendar that you have synced to your Indeed account, basically lets the candidate know, hey, this person that contacted me is not available at this time, but they are available at this time. Let me go ahead and schedule a time to conduct an interview at the time that they have available. And the cool thing about syncing your calendar to Indeed is that it updates in real time. So for example, if I have an unexpected meeting at 3 p.m. and I put that on my calendar, it's going to sync automatically. So to let candidates know that, okay, now I'm not available at 3 p.m. So you do have that ability to do so with the email portion when you reach out to candidates as well.
Excellent, Anthony.
All right. And then just another thing that I wanted to point out as well, for users that utilize the Indeed resume search, you do have anyone that's indicated that they're active or former military pretty much are free to contact. So those monthly amount of contacts with the standard subscription, you get 30. And then with the professional subscription, you get 100. With that, contacting anyone that's indicated that they're former or active military, it doesn't go against that number. So you could pretty much contact them without any consequences to your monthly contacts. It's kind of Indeed's initiative to get the former vets or the active vets into the workforce as well. So it should say free to contact right here, right next to when they updated their resume. So I did want to highlight that because it could be a good feature if you're starting to get low on contacts and you search and you have roles open and you have active or former military candidates and they match, they meet your requirements, then it could be a good way to kind of keep up those contacts for the time being until they roll over or until you get new ones for the next month as well.
Good.
All right. So I'll go to projects, or unless anyone had any questions about the searching.
So the contacts are counted by when they respond, except for military or free contacts. But everybody else, when they respond, that counts towards your 30 or 100 that you have per month.
That's a great call out because it basically the contacts are used, or what constitutes as a contacts used is basically when you just reach out to anyone. So when you email, you text, or you phone call, now that constitutes as a contact used whether they respond or not. So even if they ghost you or if they respond not interested, it's still a contact used.
Okay.
But great call out. I definitely wanted to make sure that I kind of gave the distinction with that as well. All right. So with the Indeed resume search tool, you also have an option to go ahead and put resumes into projects. The cool thing, which I can't really illustrate here with this account, is that you have the ability to go and when you put resumes into projects, Indeed gives you a list of candidates, and it's called matched candidates. So anytime that I either message a potential candidate or I input that search here, let me go here and show you. Anytime I add that candidate to a project, I'll just create a new one for the time being. We'll use test, and I create a new project, and I add that individual to that project. I want to see if it's there. Perfect. And I go here. There should be an option right up top here that says matched candidates. So basically what happens is Indeed compiles a list of 30 matched candidates per project that meets that criteria of that specific project. So you can go ahead and reach out to those individuals. So you could go ahead and if they're a good match, okay, I want to go ahead and message this person, and you hit email. Or if the candidate is not a good match, you can just click the button right next to it that says not a match. The cool thing, or the really cool thing that I like about it, is that it's 30 matched candidates per project. And then the more you engage with the matched candidates, the more it becomes intuitive to what your personal preferences are out of your candidates. So let's just say you create a project, you get the matched candidates, you go through the matched candidates. This is not what I'm looking for. None of these candidates match my criteria. So you hit not a match for all of them. And then you back out of the project and you come back in. You get another list of 30 matched candidates that matches more than what you had before. So it's kind of like Facebook, Instagram, all the algorithm-based applications that the more you engage with it, the more the personal preferences matches what you need. I like it because it's a really great tool if you're having candidate volume issues or maybe candidate quality issues. You can go through, create a project, start putting at least one resume in there, then Indeed will see that, get you 30 matches. You can go through that list. I don't want it. I want him. I don't want them. I want them. And then you can start to compile that list and build up a really good sourcing tool right here in the projects aspect. So it's a really good tool, a really useful tool that I highly recommend utilizing in your workflow when using the Indeed resume search tool.
And up to how many projects can you have?
That is a great question. I want to say for your Indeed resume account, I want to say it's 100 projects.
Per month? You could have 100 projects per month for 100 resumes for a professional subscription?
Well, no, it's just like you can create 100 projects.
Oh, just in general, you could
Yeah.
you could do up to 100 projects. Oh, okay.
Right. All right. And then save searches. Another really, really useful feature that I really like and I highly recommend utilizing. It's kind of like the name implies. It's a saved search. I'll show you how to create one if you haven't already created one. So you have your search. You have your criteria as far as your filters. You come to the top right-hand corner here above your results. You hit Save Search. I'm just going to put mental. And then you have your create your resume alert frequency, location, hit Save. Go to your Save Searches. That's how you know you created it right there. But I really like it in the aspect of, let's just say you have candidates that are getting off work. Let's just say you have candidates that maybe have a late shift. They basically update their skill set, update their resume that night, and they fall underneath your saved search as an actual candidate that meets the requirements that you've actually saved for that saved search. That morning, you'll get that list with that included candidate there. So I like this, and a lot of users really like it because it really cuts down on the time frame that I could talk to individuals that meet the requirements that I need. Instead of me having to go out and search and create a search and sit at my computer and go on Indeed, I get a list every morning of those candidates that matches that search so I can go through. Yeah, I really like this person. Okay, this person meets my requirements. Let's reach out to them. So it really, really assists with automating that process, and it creates less work for you. So you don't have to sit in front of a computer every single time, perform a search, and you can kind of go on. You guys have, I'm sure, 1,000 things to do per day. So this automates that, kind of frees up your time to kind of do other things as well. So it's a really good feature. I like. If you're not using it, I highly recommend utilizing it to automate that process.
And the AI continues to work, as you say, positive thoughts or negative thoughts, thumbs up, thumbs down per candidate. The AI is getting smarter and sharper at detecting what it is that you've described as that type of ideal profile and trying to continue to learn what candidates you're trying to get as it'll tee up more candidates in the future.
Right. It's only going to get better at identifying what you need the more you engage with it. So, and the database of resumes, especially just here in the United States, is pretty vast. I don't know the exact, last time I checked it, they said it was 1.7 million, but it could definitely be a lot more than that now. That was last year. So, and that was like early last year. So those numbers could be a little bit off. So I'm pretty sure it's a lot higher than that right now. But it's just a really vast opportunity for you to, again, to create that, automate that service, and also pull in really good quality candidates with very little work, and again, go about your workflow with that as well. All right, and then one other thing I like to highlight with templates, don't really need to kind of harp on it a lot, but one thing that I wanted to point out, because it could be a newer feature that you guys see within your Indeed resume accounts, is the response rate KPIs. So Indeed has incorporated or started to roll out the response rates for your templates. So you'll start to see saved, or just how many searches you've actually, or how many times you used that template, your overall response rate, your overall positive response rate, and then your overall negative response rate. So I like it, or I highlight that, because it really shows how effective your templates are. So if you're having an overwhelming amount of positive response rates, that's a great opportunity. Maybe you can share that with a team, or maybe you can use that as a template for the other templates that you have. But if you have an overwhelming negative response rate, then it could be an opportunity to go ahead and tweak some things on your template, or it could be an opportunity for you to partner with another person in your organization that may be having some success with their templates as well. So it's just a really good measure to also create behaviors that drive certain impacts to create, of course, meet your hiring needs and hiring goals as well. But look out for that. It should be happening here in the next couple weeks as far as them rolling that out to all the accounts as well. But that's something that I wanted to highlight because it is newer. But so some of you may see it, some of you may not.
That's fair.
All right. So that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of Indeed resume search. I could highlight some of the questions that you have, just so I make sure that I address those. And don't worry, guys, if you have the time, I have the time. So my week or my afternoon is pretty much clear. So I have enough time to address anything that you guys need as well, if you guys want.
Yeah, let's take 5 or 10 more minutes just to get our questions answered to make sure we've covered it all. That's good.
Absolutely.
Anybody else, Lee?
So tell us what would cause suspension. I'm guessing from what you said already. I mean, you addressed bulk candidates for the professional. Yes. So I don't know how many you can have for bulk, but I'm guessing the other thing, maybe if you had too many in your bulk, or contacting candidates once in 30 days, I'm guessing if you contacted them more than that, that could also cause a suspension.
Yeah, so if you were to contact an individual, or try to contact an individual more than once per 30 days, the system doesn't allow you to do so. It actually grays out the email, and there's a little message below the client's name that says, this candidate has already been contacted once for the past 30 days by you or someone from your organization. So Indeed actually doesn't allow you to do so.
Okay.
One thing that I've seen that has been pretty consistent with the reason for suspensions is just general vague messaging. What that means, or kind of what that sounds like, is like, hello, so-and-so, I'm Anthony from XYZ company. I'm looking for people to work for my opportunity. Please contact me at xyz@.com for, to learn more about such and such, or however you want to frame it. Basically, it's just general terms, generally vague, and it doesn't really apply to the position that we're actually reaching out to the candidate for. To circumvent that, one thing that I've actually applied, and I've learned this through users that have kind of been using the tool consistently, is that they'll apply something that they've seen from the resume that made them want to go ahead and reach out to that individual. So, for example, hello, Kurt. I've seen that you had experience at the Florida Counseling Network, and I feel like you would be a great fit for, a potential position that we have available. And that just adds that extra personal piece to that resume contact, and it also lets them know, like, hey, okay, they've read my resume, they've seen that I have that mental health clinician experience at Florida Counseling Network. This is why they're reaching out to me, and it just really pieces everything together. Now, you also have the general recruitment terms, the just general vague terms, and then there's also other things that could hinder that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's more like maybe you use foul language, or Maybe there is file language in your messaging to them, but it's generally, from what I've seen on a consistent basis, it's the general vague or it's the general recruitment verbiage that usually get people suspended when using Indeed Resume or Indeed Resume tool.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then just kind of going down the line for the questions, the troubleshooting for logging in, I would definitely, if you have a user that's having issues with logging in, I would definitely have them reach out to Indeed to assist them. Now, if that isn't possible, then I would have them come up here, and if they're linked to multiple accounts, I would have them, there should be like 2 arrows right here after that email. I would make sure that they're toggled into the correct Indeed account, that they have access to the Indeed Resume search. Because if you have, let's just say, I'm linked to a account, but I'm also linked to other different Indeed accounts, but one account has assigned me to an Indeed Resume subscription. I would have to make sure that I'm signed into that Indeed account to make sure that I have access to that Indeed Resume search tool.
Yeah, just so I don't forget, if you could send us after this call, mayhaps an email like Lee had requested at the top, maybe with, what videos or what training content do you already have pre-recorded or supportive documentation that would be an instant on to onboard a new customer of Indeed Resume professional version. That's all that we typically sell.
Okay.
So we can help our customers. If we can have that to forward along, that would be very helpul. Do you have videos already pre-recorded?
I don't have any videos, but I do have I want to say 8 articles that I pretty much pass along to any individual that kind of attends the resume training, that highlights messaging, best practices, how to avoid unresponsive candidates. Just it kind of goes through the whole 9 as far as resume training. I could definitely take a look and see if there might be an archive video. But I know that we have, of course, the resume training that we initiate through your points of contact, and we also have webinars that we actually have. I think it's every Tuesday and Thursday of the month. So I'll check into that and have your points of contact follow up with you on that. But for any new resume user, if you want, we could schedule as many trainings as you need, because we're always going to be here to provide that as a service.
Anthony, if you could provide your contact information so we could pass that along, that would be so helpful.
I absolutely can.
And if you could reply back to all 3 of us where I can forward it along, I'll just make sure our whole team gets that here. But this is helpful and outstanding. This is a good video here. I mean, this is a great overview that you're giving to us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Melisha, do you have any other questions about how resume works on Indeed and how to find candidates, how Boolean search strings work, how to find specific candidates that work at specific companies?
No, I don't think so. It's pretty straightforward for the most part. It's just getting used to it and having to walk someone through it if they need help with it. And the Boolean searches, I feel like, might be confusing to people, but I think once you realize that you can do the advanced search, that'll probably help them a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the articles that I have, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. One of the articles that I have is how to use Boolean search, and it walks you through the operators and kind of how to actually pull out Boolean search strings as well. So that's definitely something that we've encountered, and it's one of the reasons why we include that in the guide, because it's a really effective way to fine tune that search and find those candidates.
Lee, do you have any other further questions?
I don't think so, but I think that would be great if you'll give us your contact information and those articles, because I think for us, what you said about the account getting in through the wrong email address and under the wrong account, not under the employer, but under their personal, that is definitely the #1 reason why our clients can't get into their accounts that we found. And it would be nice just to have a few, we don't want to overload them, but at least, a couple articles on make sure you create a good message, Boolean searches, and just the top, a couple things. I think too many would be overload for them, but if we could just do a few, and the webinars, I think would be great. If we knew about that and we could tell some of our clients and they could all do that together, I think some of them might do that as well.
I'll include the link. I have the link somewhere for the webinars. Okay. I'll include that link in the follow-up email as well.